Welcome to the Mango Monkey Show. My name is Mango Monkey. So when you buy your first property, you need to decide whether you buy a brand new or second hand. You also need to decide whether you buy a one bedroom or a two bedroom apartment. Which one's better? What are the pros and the cons? I'm going to give you some ideas, some food for thoughts, and then you can decide for yourself. Food for thought number one. Property is a long-term investment. When you buy a property, you want to keep it for at least 5 years. So if you think you'll get married and have a child within the next 5 years, you probably want to buy a 2-bedroom apartment. There's actually a big transaction cost to sell a property. You need to pay your real estate agent around 2% of the sale price. So if you've held the property for only 1 year and it's gone up by only 2%, well, it hasn't really gone up because when you sell it, you need to pay 2% to your agent. But also it's annoying to sell. It usually takes between 3 months and 6 months to sell a property. This means during this time, you will have a home inspection every Saturday and perhaps also every Wednesday. You need to tidy up the place, which is actually quite annoying. If you have a tenant, you probably want to kick them out first. Why? Because you cannot make your tenant tidy your place up every single time. Presentation matters a lot when you sell a property. You can easily get an extra 5% if your property looks nice and the right buyer comes along. It's also annoying to buy. Remember how many weeks it took you to purchase your first home? It probably took you 1 month or 2 months. Now, after you sell your home, you need to do this all over again. So for these reasons, I think property is something you want to hold for at least 5 years. Now, there are a few more reasons. I'll just mention some of them quickly. Stamp duty. You probably purchased your first home with 0 stamp duty. You were a first home buyer back then. When you buy your next home, you are not a first home buyer anymore. So what that means is you pay stamp duty. Stamp duty gets charged on a sliding scale. The more expensive the property is, the higher the percentage of stamp duty. It works like an income tax. But on average in Sydney, it is around 4% of the property value. So really, for it to make sense for you to sell your home, the value must have increased at least 6%. So that's 2% for your agent, 4% for the government for the stamp duty. Now another reason is the market cycle. You cannot always time the market. Property usually goes up in value, but it doesn't go up every single year. So now at the moment there is the COVID-19 pandemic. Some experts are predicting a 10% drop, 20% drop, 30% drop. Nobody knows really. They're all just guessing. Your home value may be 10% lower, maybe 20% lower, you never know, 1 or 2 years from now. If you buy a 1-bedroom apartment that you don't like, you may be stuck with it for quite some time. When it does go up there, it normally shoots up quickly. It could go up 10% within a year, sometimes 20% or 30% within the same year. So over the long term, it should be fine. But because you cannot predict the market cycle, you want to make sure you buy something you're happy to keep for around 5 years. Alright, so now food for thought number 2. Can you afford a 2-bedroom apartment? Okay, so in the same suburb, a 2-bedroom apartment is usually $100,000 more than a 1-bedroom apartment. That's a ballpark figure, obviously, depends on the suburb. That means your deposit will need to be at least $5,000 bigger. So if you save $100 per week, there are 2 of you, that means it will take you another 6 months. Now your home loan repayment will be around $400 and $500 bigger per month, depending on the interest rate that you get, if your home is $100,000 more. My first property was a 1-bedroom apartment. I like freebies and I wanted to get the first home owner grant that has a price ceiling. It was hard to find a 2-bedroom apartment within that price ceiling. If I was to go back in time, I would probably choose a 2-bedroom apartment. As of today, when I make this video, a first home buyer could buy a brand new apartment up to $800,000 without paying stamp duty. However, they only get the $10,000 first home owner grant if the property price is not more than $600,000. If I have a 5% deposit without having to rely on this $10,000 grant, I would buy a 2-bedroom apartment. It's more of a permanent home for most people. If I get married or have a child, I can still stay in the same apartment. And if let's say there's a second coronavirus pandemic and property value never actually recovers, well, the worst thing that will happen is I will have a 2-bedroom apartment that I will keep for the rest of my life. Food for thought number 3. Is it easy to sell? One thing I didn't pay attention to when I bought my first property was whether I could resell the home easily. It turns out that it's easier to sell a 2-bedroom home compared to a 1-bedroom apartment. There seems to be more demand for a 2-bedroom apartment. Most families can live in a 2-bedroom apartment, but only very young couples or retirees can live in a 1-bedroom apartment. Now, food for thought number 4. Well, what about a studio? Even smaller than a 1-bedroom? Is that any good? Or sometimes these days you have these apartments getting advertised as 1-bedroom apartment, but really it's the studio with a partition. Usually it has some sort of wall or like a sliding door that separates the bedroom from the living room. Or sometimes it has an actual door to the bedroom, but the bedroom doesn't have a window. Or sometimes it has a window, but the window opens up to the living room, not to the outside wall. So this type of home is generally considered to be a studio, and oftentimes it's harder to get a home loan for those. If you only borrow 60% to 80% of the property value, usually you can find a bank who is happy to lend you the money. But if you want to borrow 95% or 98% of the property value, usually it's hard. So what this means is that it's harder for you to buy unless you're lucky enough to have a lot of money, a lot of deposit. But also just keep in mind when you sell it, the person buying it from you needs to have a lot of money as well. So it's a little bit risky. Okay, so what can you take away from this talk? Well, firstly, smash that like button. Now, the property you buy really depends on your lifestyle, what you think will happen in the next 5 years. You don't need to forecast the rest of your life, but imagine yourself in the next 5 years. Do some creative thinking. Think about what will happen to you and your family in the next 5 years. I think for most of you, you will need at least a 2-bedroom apartment. So if that applies to you, go buy yourself a 2-bedroom apartment. You can buy a brand new 2-bedroom apartment in Sydney up to 800,000 without stamp duty. If it is a second-hand one, the price limit is 650,000 before you need to pay stamp duty. Don't worry too much about the $10,000 government grant unless you think you do not need 2-bedroom apartment. If you're happy with 1-bedroom for a very, very long time, then it's probably okay for you to buy a 1-bedroom apartment. Okay, that's it guys. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to hit that like button. Bye.